also saw a thing talking about how apparently girls are going to hockey games and they call watching the hockey game being at the boy aquarium.
Yeah, hockey's the boy aquarium.
I love that.
There's also going to the boy zoo, which is watching men's rugby.
Okay.
Yeah, the girlies have figured out men's rugby because they're all like, wait, they work out, they got really thick thighs, and they just do a lot of like vaguely homoerotic things as part of the sport. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's most sports.
Yes, this is also very true.
Yeah, but with rugby, they're not wearing like protective padding and they got like little like slutty boy shorts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried out for the rugby team in high school, but they didn't let me join because I was too drunk when I showed up.
Nice.
Imagine being too drunk for rugby.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd fit right in.
Yeah.
Normally, yes. Oh no. That's horrifying. Speaking of horrifying, hi, welcome to Nightmare Nerds. Fuck you, Hunter. I did it before you could.
Yeah. That's fair. You're the actual host of this one.
Ah, shit, yeah.
I'm just the lowly producer.
You've been downgraded. But anyways, hi, I'm Sarah. That is Hunter.
I am.
And this is Alex.
Alex, who is the other main host of this podcast format horror thing that we are doing.
We're up to 3 times now, and we have managed to continue to do this. I'm extremely impressed.
Yes, we're still working out the kinks. Things. So with Nightmare Nerds, we are going to be talking about horror tabletop gaming and the various big and small types of games and various aspects of horror gaming. So part 3, we're talking about storytelling and gaming, which will be discussing what storytelling is and how the format of tabletop games affects storytelling. Woohoo, nerd shit.
And just for a little content warning for our listeners, we will be going over basic horror elements during this podcast.
Yes. Nothing particularly spicy, but I cannot confirm because of the way we format the show. Something spicy might show up. So if you're not into anything spooky, ooky, or kooky, you're free to bounce out and come on back. But if that is your flavor, hello, welcome. Welcome to one of many spooky corners. The sources for this episode, I have Beyond Choices and the Ethics of Computer Games by Miguel Sicart. I'm probably going to be quoting these books a lot over the series. I also have What is a Game and Roleplay Games from the Crash Course series on gaming, which is actually really good. They have a whole playlist of it about all sorts of like the history of video games and stuff like that. I super recommend. Also have Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man by Marshall McLuhan, Cult, Divinity Lost, Game Master's Guide Beyond the Darkness and Madness, as well as the Considerate Play section of Vampire the Masquerade 5th Ed, and also What is Storytelling by the National Storytelling Network. So many sources. Cite your goddamn sources.
I'm working on it.
You're doing better, buddy, and I'm proud of you. I do like that in our other show, Discord server, you had brought up the how do I cite a dream? And I'm like, actually, I can do that.
That's good because I've been practicing astral projection, and lucid dreaming. It's scary how similar the techniques are for both, but I won't get into that right now.
That might be a future episode.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, because I was reading through the Cult Divinity Lost over while I was working at PAX East, and there's a lot of good content on there. I feel like we'll be citing that source a lot over the course of the show, but I'm just like, there's too much. There's too much info. Gotta narrow the scope.
Admittedly, I will say, and this is extremely biased because I absolutely adore Cult. It is my favorite game, I would say, or at least in the top 3. They even say at the beginning of the book, don't try to read all of this. It's not all of it is for you. There will be small sections that you can take away that will be helpful. But I am a mad person and read the whole thing cover to cover. So
that is okay. I'm also a mad person. I'm reading through Chris Crawford on interactive storytelling, which is literally a 380 page plus textbook about like game design.
Ooh.
Because I hate my brain. But things I don't hate. What is storytelling? Alex, do you want to read the quote?
Absolutely.
Sick.
So our definition is taken from the National Storytelling Network, and it says, storytelling is the interactive art of using words and actions to reveal the elements and images of a story while encouraging the listener's imagination.
Yeah, that seemed to be the best one. We talked about it a little bit on previous episodes, so I'm not going to delve into that too much. Just a baseline refresher for those who have the ADHD like myself and forget shit all the time.
And just to also kind of smash the ceiling of people who read this and they're like, that seems extremely clinical. Also know that Humans are storytellers by nature, so don't let any of it intimidate you as we continue on through this.
Yeah, we all do storytelling constantly. Some of you are doing it even right now as you're listening to me in your ear holes at your day job or whatever, while we are running in the background, or you're folding your laundry. I don't know what your life is.
Driving your car safely.
Both hands, 10 and 2.
Mhm.
So to delve into the part that's going to be a little bit more chunk of the episode is what is a game? Alex, you want to read this one, or should somebody else pick that up?
No, I can do it. It's fine.
Heyo.
So this one is taken from Wikipedia. A game is a structured type of play usually undertaken for entertainment or fun, and sometimes used as an educational tool. Many games are also considered to be works or to be work, such as professional players of spectator sports or video games, or art, such as involving an artistic layout, such as mahjong, solitaire, or other video games.
There's a lot of definitions for games, and I'll be honest, a lot of them kind of sucked. The Wikipedia one was the best one I found. At least in my opinion, because a lot of them also just like they get very clinical to because it's a dictionary or an encyclopedia definition, and they kind of would just like talk about games in terms of just sports or games in terms of like just board games, and they didn't really encompass all of games.
Mm-hmm.
Because games is a really wide concept, unfortunately, or fortunately.
And also, if you break it down even further, there's a whole element of the business world as well as other applications of game theory and game thought and things like that that probably also muddy the waters as far as our definition that we are looking for.
Yeah, because there's aspects for like business strategy with game theory, which I know has its roots traced back into wargaming and things like that. Which is why you run into that weird phenomenon of there will be two competing gas stations at the same intersection, which is a weird game theory thing of like, well, if you have this patch of land, it's strategically most advantageous for both businesses to be butted up against each other, and then one gets one half of the playfield and the other half gets the other half of the playfield. Like there's there's actually algorithms and stuff that goes with that, but I don't have that kind of brain space right now, so don't worry about it.
Reminds me of that nightmare picture.
Which one?
It kind of became a meme. It's like, isn't America beautiful? And it's just like the 5 gas stations, the McDonald's, and like a bunch of semi shamrocks in the background.
Oh, not the Strode.
The 8-lane highway, yeah.
Yeah, not the Strode. I do not like a Strode, but we are in the Midwest, which is like the capital of the Strode.
Oh, it depends. If you're in an older area like I am, you also get the one-way streets where people are just confused all of the time.
Bro, no lies. I've realized how spoiled I am living in Indianapolis because the city is actually a grid. I just came back from a trip to Boston, and I was just like, no one knows what they're doing, and everybody drives like they can afford the insurance premiums.
And then you get the road that's 5 inches across that used to be a horse trail that they just converted into a road. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's wild. It was wild in the streets. So in terms of the gaming that we talk about on the show, I'm going to delve very, very briefly into Chris Crawford's hierarchy of games because there's a lot of games and lots of different types of games. So there's a little way to kind of break this down. So Crawford's definition of a game is basically evolves around games as like entertainment objects. So any kind of an entertainment that is interactive can be termed as a plaything. So if it's a thing you interact with and it brings you joy, it is a plaything. A plaything with no goal is a toy. So it'll be like a slinky or an action figure or like a weird little kitchen set, Play-Doh. That's plaything that has no objective, no goal. Plaything that has a goal is considered a challenge, which would be like having the slinky go down the stairs or using your action figures to like fight each other or kiss. I don't know what kind of kid you were. Or like if you're playing kitchen, you would be like doing things like I need to get the lunch rush out.
Or just playing your skip it, you know?
Yeah. Like you're trying to like get to the top number or various other kinds of little activities that elevates plaything into a challenge. Challenges that have no other active agent involved in them is called a puzzle, which would be like Sudokus, actual like puzzles, like solo play RPGs could fit in here in a certain kind of, pretty much that's the only place I could think to put solo TTRPGs. I haven't messed with those as much. In my understanding, those have only gotten popular somewhat recently.
Yeah, they have. And some of them do definitely fall into the puzzle category, especially if you have items that are like about dungeon delving or dealing with challenges. Then you have other ones that are like journaling games, which are entirely self-reflective as far as what you're doing, and you're just making up a story as you go.
Yeah,
So,
like what is like Thousand Year Vampire was like a really popular one.
yep, there's Thousand Year Vampire. There's some like Whispers in the Walls where you're just making nightmares.
Ayo, we love that here.
Mm.
So the challenge that does have a secondary party to engage with is called a conflict. Conflicts break down further. So a conflict where the players do not interact or interfere with each other is referred to as a competition. So this would be like sporting events like ice skating, rock climbing, archery, bowling. Most conflicts where there's not another player tend to be these like competition tournament kind of games where people are like competing for a high score, but they're not directly like engaging with each other.
Asymmetrical challenges, yeah.
Yes. And then conflicts where the players do interact and interfere with each other is referred to as a game. So this would be football, basketball, tag, Mario Kart, Monopoly, and most tabletop roleplay games.
Okay, interesting.
That's our niche on the pyramid. Though the kind of interesting thing to note with this definition for a game, players do not necessarily have to interact with a live person. So this would also include video games where you have like AI NPCs that you have to interact with, or some sort of like computer algorithmic thing that a player interacts with, and it can affect things in the environment, but there's like not actually a person actively running that other character or piece of the environment.
And in its baseline, this is the general idea as well for Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
Because as much as it seems like a book, if you actually break down Choose Your Own Adventure, it is just a series of graphs of if and then statements like a computer program.
I used to love fucking Choose Your Own Adventure novels.
Oh, I still do. I'm currently learning how to write one, actually, and writing one.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's cool.
That would be super fun. I'm excited to hear more of that. So, how does gaming affect storytelling? This is where the nerd things collapse in on itself like a flan. Do you want to read the next quote?
Sure. I can do that and push my glasses up here.
Yes.
Role-playing games are not only games. They're also a form of interactive group storytelling. The games have rules, but within the system of rules, players can have a level of control over their persona and their actions. The rules of the game loosely manage a player's choices through a series of consequences. Written by Andre Meadows, Role-Playing Games Crash Course.
Honestly, I super recommend the Crash Course series on gaming. Like, Andre was pretty peak. I just like the Crash Course series. I'm like, it's education and free, and it's actually really good. It's haunting the amount of my college professors that have used Crash Course videos in like the introductory sections of my classes. Like, it's crazy, dog. Anyways, so gaming allows players to engage with a simulation of a situation. Through this buy-in, players and storytellers can engage with basically ethical criticism, which is a lot of what happens in roleplay games for plot. Roleplay games of all mediums, and this is including video, tabletop, ARG kind of things, provide an acknowledged other space that is outside of, like, you have your normal realm of existence, and then you have the other space of the game. This could be an entirely new world and realm, or it could be like an alternate universe of our own timeline, but it exists outside of your normal to-do-ins. This other space, players and storytellers can engage with through personas, social roles, and systematic cycles that are unique to the other space through a process of accepting the rules and quirks of the other space. I hope that all makes sense. I know I'm like, hi guys, I'm using nerd talk to describe a thing that we just kind of innately do, but I find it makes it easier to be a little bit more thoughtful about the process of what we are doing when you kind of go, oh, there's definitions for this? Oh shit.
And it does make sense too when you think about it, just as considering the other space to be an imagined realm. And it's basically the idea of role-playing games in general, which is taking something we already do, which is telling stories, and adding structure to it.
Yeah.
And I think to be as a relative for people who knew this, I mean, it's the same space that like when you're kids and you play superhero and you're like, I'm Iron Man, I'm the Hulk, and you run around and throw rocks at each other. Like that is the exact same other space as this.
Yeah, so. You're playing a boffer LARP with rocks.
And the rocks cause emotional damage.
And then someone's mom comes and gets real mad at everybody.
Well, that's because you're throwing the rocks from the garden that she specifically paid to have in the garden. Whoops.
Yeah, we're actually using them. You're just leaving them out in the rain.
It's free real estate, ma'am. I'm sorry. Anyway. So there is a very long history about philosophers for thousands of years discussing the ethics within fiction and engaging with ethics of fiction. I'm not going to get into that right now because that's crazy. It's just a thing that's going to have to come up a lot during the course of the show. So I'll break it into fun little bite-sized bits when they come up. So hey guys, you've been spared a lecture. Uh, but at least in terms of what we're trying to talk about, what I wanted to bring up was these main points, and this is kind of some of the frameworks I'm pulling from Sakart's work, which is characters express their ethos, which is basically like their belief system, through the habits of their choices, and then the society within games express their own ethics by what it chooses to be and exist as. So that I think is important to consider when you're writing and or building or engaging with games, because role-play games, unlike fiction, when you're a fiction author like writing prose, you can provide the leading lines of thought and a neat conclusion for what you're trying to get across in terms of like themes, the goals of your narrative, any kind of like ethical dilemmas and choices you're presenting within like the narrative. You, because the way the novels work, you get to decide every step of that process and how it gets presented. That's not how it works in gaming.
No, not at all. You can
No.
have some amount of control over it through the example of using things like driving questions,
Mhm.
where you are essentially telling the players what they think, but not actually telling them what they think, which is a big part of running games in general, is the magic of making them do the things you want them to do while still thinking it's their choice.
Ah, yes. Yes, the advanced degrees of, yes, this was your thought. Good job. Here's a cracker. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
If you need them to go to B and you have options A and B, congratulations, both of them are B.
hey, the meme of the cow with the two hallways.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Uh, but yeah, like with engaging in terms of games, game designers and storytellers really need to account for the various ways in which players are going to engage with the other space, however that is put together for your game, and how these narratives and mechanics will engage with our world through these physical fictional elements. So when you're designing a game whole cloth, or if you're being a storyteller and you're preparing to run a game for your friends or for like an actual play or any other kind of situation, because you are relinquishing narrative control to do a collaborative thing with players, it puts a bit more onus on you as the writer to think a little bit more about what you're writing and why and where it could go.
Mm-hmm. And this, a thing that can help with this too is a lot of people look at writing worlds and writing stories through a bigger lens, when in reality, the only things you really need to do to get the points across and get people to think in a certain way is really provide little minutia, little points, little things that you wouldn't even think about. But if you think about them through the lens of your real life, things that you just take for granted, if there are these elements to the world which make them feel more real and you can get your players to understand that, then great, and you're going to have a good time. Now, granted, this doesn't account for people that just, stick in the mud, go against stuff. It also doesn't count for people who just basically run a book. But if you
Mhm.
have a table of people that are willing to work together, that's the suggestion of how to approach it.
Yeah, and I think there's also like not only the responsibility as the storyteller or the writer or the game dev to consider what you're putting out and how that's going to get interpreted in different ways that folks could take a thing. There's also you kind of I don't want to say humility necessarily, but you need to give yourself the grace to accept feedback from other people or their interpretations of your writing, because you cannot account for everyone's lived experience and how they're going to interpret shit, and
Yes.
somebody might bounce back an idea to you like as a critique, or it could be something that is a due to their cultural context, it might actually make the story even better, and you're just like, oh shit, I never would have looked at it that way. Hell
Yes.
yeah, let's go.
Do reach out to people that are, you would call them sensitivity readers and things like that. If you're going to cover a topic or a group that you yourself do not belong to, it's usually a good idea to have somebody who has a little bit more of an idea give it a look. I mean, I would just suggest in general to have a friend or somebody look at your writing, period, if it's something that you want to put out for people, just to make sure you get another pair of eyes on it, because you can get lost in the weeds real fast and have assumed information. And then you have other people that are coming into it brand new who don't have the same assumed information that you would then not think about.
And then like narrowing that focus a little bit more into specifically like horror gaming, which is hello our niche. Hello, welcome to Spooky
Mhm.
Corner. I find in horror RPG systems there tends to be more space for collaboration as opposed to other role play kind of game styles where you have the classic Dungeons and Dragons of I'm the dungeon master, I'm bequeathing to you all of the knowledge, and then you kind of have to run with it. Horror systems tend to lend themselves to being a little bit more collaborative.
Hmm. And that comes with the understanding of people that are here to enjoy horror. Winning is not necessarily what you want. You want the struggle. You want things to be scary sometimes. In order to do that, you have to have a collaborative story that is going to be living and breathing based upon what you and the rest of your group are interacting with.
Yeah.
Not only that, I
Oh.
would say one of the big features of horror is the unknown. If you know exactly
Mhm.
what's happening and what you're getting into, a lot of the fear and the mystery is gone. It's kind of like first time D&D players versus the guy who's read the monster manual 5 times and here's a brief description. It's like, okay, fire spell, we're good.
Mm.
Mhm.
Moving on. But like in horror, I think part of the reason you get more of the story is because you also, it's not like, all right, we're going to a dungeon, we need to get this treasure, we're blah, we're going on a caravan here. There's a lot more usually intrigue and mystery and investigation, and when you give that to your players, they might do that in a much different way than, all right, go kill this guy. Oh
And
no, they
that's
use bows instead of swords.
And I think a big thing with that is just approaching something through the difference of story versus function. If you are approaching a game or something like that and you are just serving a function, aka going in and smacking the goblin, and that's what you enjoy, that's fine. But a thing in horror games is you're not so concerned about the function as you are about the story surrounding the function. And this is why a lot of horror games forego really, really in depth rules, because they want things to be a little bit more vague, a little bit more fluid, and work what's right for you and your friends.
Yeah, because I tend to find, especially for horror, not every type of horror is going to work the same for everybody or be to something that they like.
Mm-mm, not
Because
at
you
all.
could, yeah, because I know tons of people that are really squicked out by body horror stuff. I weirdly enjoy it, but that's because I'm one of the people's like, yeah, show me that wet ass puppet. Show me the weird fucking monster. Let's go. Like, cause I initially wanted to go to college for special effects, and I had applied to go to one of the Tom Savini schools here in or over in Kentucky. Didn't go, family tragedy. We can talk about that later. But yeah, but then there's horrors that really fuck with me and make me go, no, 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 I don't want this, that other people just wouldn't really see what the fuss is about.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into the next point of not everyone is going to have the same boundaries between each other person, and let alone from day to day. And that's something really to consider when you are doing horror. And this is why we are always going to be advocates, no matter what the context of your game is, to always have a consent sheet, to always have your session zero, always talk to your players, know what they're comfortable with, because it could change on a day to day basis, especially when you're dealing with something that's supposed to be terrifying. Because for some folks they may want to explore something that is a genuine, not pain point, but something in their life that does cause them fear. So if they want to explore it in a controlled environment and a safe environment where you are also comfortable with that as well as the other people at the table, that's fine. But there may come a time when they're not ready to deal with that, and that's also okay
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, and there's also the fun situation of like the opposite of that, where somebody's like, "Yeah, I ain't bothered by this," and then halfway through they go, "Oh, turns out I do have thalassophobia. Son of a bitch." Um, oops.
It happens all the time, and it's one of those things that you try to give. And I've done
Mhm.
this too, of like asking people at my table, does anybody have thalassophobia? And some of them don't know what that is, and I tell them it's the fear of deep water, and they're like, I don't think so. And then we get to the scene and I see their reaction and I'm like, is this a problem? Do we need to skip past this description? And they'll either tell me yes or no, and then we move on from there.
Yeah, deep water seems to be the big one where people go like, "I did not want this, but I
Mhm.
did not know I did not want this until we were in the middle of it." Shit. Uh,
Mhm.
which is fine. A lot of people don't have to deal with deep water. I unfortunately have had to deal with a lot of deep water because the ocean keeps eating my family. Uh, which is one way of putting that, I suppose. I do also wanted to did also want to note words are hard, everyone. Uh, games with stories that delve into more personal horror will require the storyteller and the player to be in a dialogue with each other, not only to be able to build tension with the horror simulation, but to maintain the boundaries so the simulation keeps being a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
I've
this,
had that happen.
yeah, and this can be a little bit difficult for folks, especially if you're approaching this for the first time. And this is a big reason why these trust elements are so built into these things. And to take a point from Vampire, which is taking a point from the BDSM community, it's much the same. You're relinquishing control of a situation in which you are made to feel vulnerable. There could be a situation where you step a little bit too far into it, and you might get something like bleed or something like that, or something might go too far. But that's why you have these discussions. You know what is in place in order to keep everybody safe and happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and bleed is going to happen. I don't know. I over the course of my gaming career and as like the community has gotten, I think, better language about discussing bleed and consent and boundaries and all that. I, for some reason, find I take umbrage with portions of the community that act like bleed is this thing that you can control. Like you put a muzzle on until it's a bad boy and put it in a corner and it'll go away. And I'm like, no, you're gonna experience bleed all the time. We experience bleed also outside of gaming spaces and just like having to defrag from like workspace into your personal life, or you had a issue like with your family and you're trying to not like carry over that frustration onto like a movie night with your friends. Like
Mm-hmm. It can even
that's
be triggered from
Mhm.
nostalgia.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen situations where people are just like they've clung to some sort of idea or experience that they've enjoyed in their past and they're constantly trying to recreate it instead of enjoying that moment for what it is and letting it
Mm-hmm.
exist in the brain. That can go sideways very quickly in certain kind of gaming spaces and personal life, but that might be a thing we have to dig into later as an episode maybe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is very much something we could dig into and kind of move us on here. We're going to cover the point of why does all of this matter?
Why does it matter? Hi guys, we're gonna get into communications stuff because I'm that kind of a fucking nerd. So, I wanted to cover very briefly the concept of the medium is the message. So this is a rather foundational now, at least in modern communications, concept from Marshall McLuhan, which he was presenting his own ideas in the 70s and such. So you can find his entire lectures on YouTube if you want to delve into this more. But it basically boils down to the way a message is being sent has about as much value as the message itself. So it's not only just what you're saying, but how you're saying it and the way that message is getting across. So, kind of a way he breaks this down in his book is so think about the concept of like an electric light. This can be an LED bulb or an incandescent bulb. That part doesn't matter. What does matter is the bulb itself is providing no content. It is just projecting light, but the light has value because it is the medium that is being used to create a space that would otherwise be unavailable. So if you don't have the electric light, you can't like be in certain spaces because that bitch dark. But the light bulb's not telling you to, buy now. Roll the dice. It's okay. Jesus loves you. Yes, he does. Yeah, the light bulb's not saying anything. It's just providing light and nothing else. And then in context of that, you can think of like a news broadcast where the content of the news may be about like a crime, a new trend that's happening in fashion or whatever. It could be the rise and fall of stonks. Each story within the news broadcast itself can be shared between you and your friends through words of mouth, but because those stories are being shared through the medium of a news broadcast, that changes the context of what's being said because the broadcast is something that will affect like mass society and will be affecting wider public opinions and discourse. And those stories are being curated by the editors of the broadcast company as well as the sponsors of the broadcast company. So, what's being said, when it's being said, and how it's being presented on the news broadcast are all being affected by those things because of the medium of it being a broadcast. I just see you nodding like, yes, Sarah, we get okay.
Oh, it's a good point, and
Mhm.
it's well understood in the comparison to our situation. And
Yeah.
to kind of draw back to our comparison of what we were talking about as a show,
Yes.
the way you can think about this is you can think about this as the role playing games can be seen as a light bulb in this
Mhm.
sense. The role playing games are a medium, giving us a space to explore with no inherent content. Storytellers can also be seen as the new news broadcasters. The stories we write and the mechanics that we use to engage with these stories are shaped by the medium that exists as much as the message we are projecting within the text of the story. Being mindful of the medium we are working in and will make Sorry.
You can take it again. It's okay.
No, it's not. Being mindful of the medium we are working in will make us more conscious and more effective storytellers. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I couldn't understand the way that. All right. Sorry. 1 second. Being mindful of the medium that we're working in, it will make us more conscious and more effective storytellers.
Ayo, yes. That's part of the reason why I was like, when you're writing stories in role play games, that medium itself is going to very directly affect how the story you're being told is going to get perceived, the way you're able to tell the story, and like the context that everything is going to exist in. Because something that could be written as a horror scenario for one group of people could have a vastly different context for a different group of people, just depending upon like what their background is or their personal experiences are. Currently, like some of my favorites kind of engaging with this has been the public reception for the movie Sinners, and just watching people from all sorts of different backgrounds kind of engage with the story from that game. And low key, I'm very excited to see how elements of that movie are going to get translated into stories for tabletop horror games. And I'm just like, yes, oh, this is going to be so good.
And they absolutely will, because as we spoke about before on our comparison of modern media and the understanding of our game space, as things get popular, as these items influence us, you will then see them reflected upon the things within our space. I would say that the vampire media of the 90s very much played into the popularity of Vampire the Masquerade, for example. Just the same of these explorations of unknown monsters and things like that, and these gigantic beasts from the depths of the ocean played into the success of things like Call of Cthulhu. And again, it's we see the cool thing, we want to interact with the cool thing, and we make a space in which we can do that.
Yes. Yeah. So that was roughly where I wanted to go with like storytelling and gaming. It's like these two things don't inherently have to be intertwined. Obviously, you can have games without story elements, you can do storytelling without gaming, but once you've combined those together, I think it creates a really interesting and unique like medium in which to express content and various kinds of messaging, and also to receive feedback from players on how you proceed with your stories. Because a lot of mass media is very one way. Like a lot of social medias, parasocial relationships where you're constantly pushing stuff out and people can only engage with you through the like button and maybe the comment section, but that's about it. They don't really get to know you. When you're playing tabletop games, you do learn a lot about your friends in a very short amount of time, because you can have that kind of dialogue, which is great. I have many great friends that I do gaming with.
And it's also can be a nice way for you to explore those topics that maybe you have wanted to be in, but not exactly. You can't really think of a real life situation in which you could find yourself in that sort of situation. Games do provide that sort of outlet, and especially things with like horror games. Because we've talked about this before too, of the idea of why people like horrific elements. And it's the idea that you can experience a situation in which is extremely stressful or horrific or whatever else, and you come out on the other side, you are the same person. You might have had a situation within there where you stepped into that character's shoes, you experienced some of those elements to the story, and that's all well and good. And then at the end of the day, you step back out and you are back to your life, and you get some amount of comfort or satisfaction having experienced that.
Yeah. Or if you're a dork like me, it's like, aha, you've gotten a chance to, I guess, use gaming as a dialectics to be like, hey, friends, but what if thing? What if haha too close to sun? And then you can take those ideas and go, oh, what if I have the skills in my real life to haha too close to the sun, and just start staring at your own hands. And then you end up building a charity show with like 20 plus sponsors. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm a normal person. It's all good.
Debatable.
Fuck off. Yeah, hopefully that was a good little explainer to be like, okay, storytelling and gaming, hopefully got some good basis, got some good little nuggets of info. If you have context or comments, critiques, feedback, more questions you want to learn from us, please reach out to us on the social medias thing that we will be inserting now.
My voice goes here.
And make sure to tune in next time, where we're going to cover the concept of how do you make games scary.
The ookity spookities. How do we bring them to the tabley wabley? I need to go to bed. Anyways, good night. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
It's done.
Hey, thanks for checking out Nightmare Nerds. We just put up our first 3 episodes, so if you enjoyed this, go check out the other 2, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. If you want even more of Sarah and myself, you can go check out Blank Bodies. That's our Vampire the Masquerade and general vampire horror podcast. We also have a channel for Nightmare Nerds over there. You can go hang out, meet a bunch of people. There's always people running games, talk about game inspiration and stuff over there, and I promise the nerds over there are not nightmares. They're actually pretty great. We also have all our social medias linked below, our YouTube, all the other social media stuff. I don't really use them. I'm bad at that. But the other 2, they have much better grip on that than me. But yeah, again, thanks for checking us out, and we'll be back soon. Bye.